All right, today we're going to be talking about Iron Man 232 by Barry Windsor Smith, one of my favorite issues of Iron Man. This is a reflective period for Tony Stark because he's kind of going through the, drinking period. He's going through the my weapons of mass destruction have killed innocent people period. Kind of all the things you saw in the first Iron Man movie. This is the reflective comic book portion of that. It was done in 1988. This is still volume 1. Intimate Enemies, written by Dave Michelini, epilogue. So one of the things about Barry Windsor Smith's art that I appreciate so much is he really likes to focus on light sourcing. Not many artists will do that. In the case of this, they chose a spot in the story to where he could focus on that a lot. You already see it right at the beginning here. There's a light out in the distance. It's reflecting off his armor. His repulsors. It's already light sourced the hell out. But Barry Windsor Smith also does something else, is that he uses speed lines in shadow where there could be darkness. So, for instance, let me kind of move this light here. So, for instance, all these are speed lines instead of just blacked out. And Tony fires off at the light here. He's actually not sure what it is. He thinks it's something taunting him. And he's kind of being very poetic about it, caressing me. But already just the believable ability to make expressions on the armor. Surprise, searching, kind of indignation. Different expressions on the armor here. I love it. And already we don't even know what the thing is that he's blasting at. But he's kind of doing these one-liners. He's expressing his feelings. Which Tony, was very much... he wasn't like the comedy... Iron Man wasn't funny in the comic books. People forget that, who've watched the movies. Iron Man isn't a funny character. He's very serious, tonal wise, especially in the 80s. But again, the use of light, and as the comic book goes on, he's already doing it. He's already throwing in so much detail where it doesn't even need to be there, but it's just Barry Windsor Smith. And it looks like he's fighting against this other type of Iron Man, this animatronic thing. Beautiful detail against speed lines to use instead of darkness. I'm already digging it. Sorry, I'm trying to get this lighting going here. Fucking. Tony doesn't know what it is he's fighting. It's forcing its darkness into me, filling me with electric bile, and I hurt. Dear Lord, I hurt. But it blows his mask off of him. And even these sweat beads right here. Just the detail, the way that Barry would draw faces. I just feel like he got the characters down sometimes than even people who would be doing this monthly all the time. There's just something about his faces, and he uses different types of faces through the years in his art. Sometimes we're like above the eyebrows here, there's always a pop. It's interesting. But as you can see, Tony falls into a pile of bodies. And this is kind of where he's coming to the realization, corpses, miles of them, and the heat, the stench, who are they? They're victims, Chief. Matter of fact, they're yours. What? Is that you, Rhodey? And this other Iron Man shows up carrying bodies and dropping them off into the fire. How could the carnage be my fault? Figure it out, Chief. After all, it's your problem. I just clean up around here. And he thinks it's Rhodey, in other words, the future War Machine, who would take over for him sometimes as Iron Man, especially when he was going through his alcoholic phase. He couldn't, handle it. And I'm going to guess Michelini is kind of a fan. He's a fan of The Shining, because this is literally just ripped straight out of The Shining. How about some bald courage? Seems you're a tad short of the stuff yourself. Rhodey, I'm alcoholic. I can't drink a drink. You know that. And Tony's not saying these things out loud. He's thinking them. But the Iron Man over here is replying. You want to escape, don't you? One way's as good as another. And already, this is another thing, too, is that an artist using a certain situation just to be artistic. In the case of Barry Windsor Smith, BWS, he's already making this Iron Man huge. He's already making him come down on him hard. And now he's all tied up. And I just love it. I just love the way he's expressing this moment for Tony, that his problems are getting too big for him. They're torturing him. They feel like these huge things, and you can see all the beads of sweat. It's really taking everything out of him. And look at this shit. Like, Jesus Christ. And he's saying how he's got to turn it around. And he's like, I know where I am now. Hell, I'm the devil because stealing my own soul, but I won't let me have it easily. And he starts to fight back. But just look at all this. This is nuts on so many levels. Just all this key design. And I kind of wonder, like, what the coloring suggestion was on this, because it's just so vibrant and random. And I dig it with the coloring, the purple background. It's just so rad. And this, you never see this today. In today's comic books, you would never see any of this. Look at all this fucking detail. All these wires. It would take me a whole day probably just to do this. The hands coming up through the wires. Another thing that's kind of hard is making it feel like when something's grabbing something that it's actually pulling on it. But he does a good job here. Speed lines. Not even cross-hatching. Speed lines for darkness. It's just so beautiful, the way the armor's ripping apart, the way the circuitry, just these little details. It's beautiful, beautiful work, man. Light still, the light sources. I think these are really playing to Barry's strengths. This face is 100% the Tony Stark I remember from my comic books, or I imagined, But essentially what Tony's doing here, and I love how the armor's falling to pieces, is he's fighting against his demons. And probably the only part of this comic that I think Michelini falls apart on is the back here, the back end where he starts to tell the prayer, now I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. He starts praying, which I actually would have wished that all of this was just silent. I mean, except for the fighting. I just wish they did battle with no words, almost like a Frank Miller style. Or it's just panels of fighting. But I mean, can you imagine picking this up and just being blown away by this? The detail, the Raz. It's just beautiful. And this is where Tony wakes up and he realizes it's a dream. No, not a dream. After destroying the demons in his dreams. Thought I was strong enough to fight the guilt to deny it, but it kept gnawing at me like, well, some insatiable beast. Guess my subconscious was smarter than I was. It knows I can never destroy the beast. All I can do is accept it, admit it as a part of me, reconcile, and then get on as best I can with the rest of my life. All the people who suffered because of those stolen inventions, battered, maimed because of weapons I created. I dig it. I love it so much. I would suggest everyone either go buy this issue or go just seek out Barry Windsor's art. I mean, you're never going to lose with it. He also did the Wolverine Weapon X Marvel Presents issues, which at some point we'll look at those. But I don't think those ones beat this one. As much as I like to see his outdoor scenes and everything, I just like the idea of a narrow fight between Iron Man and his demons, his subconscious, his conscious, getting to him, conscience. It's just so well done, even the goofy shining part. But anyways, everyone, thanks for going through this with me. It's one of my favorite, issues of Iron Man. I highly recommend going and getting it. Support your local comic shop, all the things. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. I appreciate the hell out of it because I'm putting a lot into this channel right now. And have a good day.